saying Jehovah.
What's going on, YouTube? How you doing? How you doing? First and foremost, man, I want to thank everyone for the love and support. And like I always say, I will always be humble and thankful for that. And before we get started, y'all, please hit that subscribe button for your boy. Please hit that subscribe button for your boy. These Africans, man, are coming out not believing that black Americans are indigenous to this land. Now, it's a young man, and I'm going to play the video in a second, but he don't believe black Americans are from this land. Now, he's an African. Let me put that out there first. He's an African, but before I get too far ahead of myself, let me play this video right quick.
Nothing blows me more than African Americans who are like, bro, we didn't come from Africa, bro. I'm not African. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Like, you're in some intense state of denial. Like, I worked with a nigga who genuinely believed he was Native American. I'm looking at this nigga. This nigga looks just like me, bro. This nigga, not even just the same skin tone. I'm talking about the nose, the lips. Like, come on, bro. The hair texture. Like, I'm seeing your nappy-ass dreads in my face right now. You talking about, no, bro. I'm 100% Native, bro. We did not come from Africa. What? Stop that shit, nigga. Stop it.
Now, y'all heard this young African. Now, before I get on to what he was talking about, let's just look at everything about this video. Number one, he work at AT&T. Now, there are a lot of people contacting AT&T right now as we speak, trying to get that young man fired. Now, me personally, I ain't gonna go that far. Wink, wink, wink. But I ain't stopping nobody doing what they do. You get what I'm saying? Because if you out here being very hostile and xenophobic and denouncing who we are on this land, you deserve whatever come to you. And I'm letting the ancestors work in this favor, because when you go on his page, I couldn't find the video. So I had to screen record this video off somebody else's page. Now, another thing that I noticed, he using a lot of black American vernacular. He using all our slang. He got the movements. He even tried to get their hair like us, you know, like black Americans and stuff like that. He's copying everything that we do. This is a certified tether. A certified tether. And this is what we talking about, man. It ain't, listen, I ain't knocking no one that come from different places, loving our culture, respecting our culture, just very mesmerized by our culture. You know, I ain't knocking that. But once you start tethering on to our culture, then being disrespectful and not listening to what we saying and telling you the truth about we are not continental Africans and we nothing like you, that's wild to me. Then he say we look like them. A lot of black Americans don't look like that dude. We can tell, like, we can really look at this kid and tell, like, dude, you ain't one of us. It's a lot of Africans say I look African. I like, okay, what, because of my big head? What? Listen, I got a black American big head. Like, I got an American big head. I don't have an African big head. And I'm not from Africa. I'm not African at all. But they will say that because of skin tone, once again. It's something about this skin color that they think everybody is them. And no, everybody not y'all, bro. They do not have this this fight when it comes to other places, bro. It's always black Americans. Why is that? Why do they always come at black Americans all the time, saying that you African? They don't do the people in the Philippines, like I said in my other video. They don't even they starting to come at the Caribbeans now, but they don't even talk to the South Americans. They don't talk to the Cubans. They don't talk to white folks. They don't talk to nobody but us, saying that we African. Why is that? I think why, because they're jealous. Once again, y'all gotta understand, when these Africans see black Americans having pride in their culture, pride where they come from, loving black America, just love everything about their lineage here on this land, it bothers them. And I blame a lot of people back in the 80s and 90s, not just media, but the people that some of the people that we grew up with that had us looking at Africa as the motherland, as the end all be all and stuff like that, then laugh at our ancestors or our grandparents when they told us, hey, you know, I'm Choctaw, I'm Indian, I'm whatever. For me, I'm speaking for myself also, and I talked to a couple people that said this also. When my grandparents told me they was indigenous to this land, like they were Indians and shit, I didn't believe that shit. I looked at my grandma and cried like, what? What you talking about? You ain't no Indian. But she kept telling us stories about certain stuff that was going on back in the day. Even when I did my genealogy, everything my grandmother said matched. like matched everything that she said. But these Africans, man, and I think and I'm gonna be honest with you, I think a lot of Africans didn't know there was black people in America. I don't think a lot of Africans heard of America till like the late 80s, early 90s. Maybe South Africa might have heard of us, but the rest of Africa didn't hear about us. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think they knew. I think Africans starting to realize it was a lot of black Americans in America was until like 2017 or 2018 when they started to get cell phones. You gotta think America been ahead of Africa for decades. From period in life, period. America always been ahead of Africa. But this is just my opinion. Okay, y'all? This is not something I got from me. This is just my thoughts, okay? This is my thoughts. But I believe when Africans, especially Nigerians and all these West Africans, some of these East Africans finally got their hand on the phone with the internet on there, and they finally had access to America, I think that was their first time seeing black Americans in a vast like that. They might seen some of us in movies, but it just didn't click to them till they see how we was. And I think by them seeing that and by see how we was living, how we was thriving, they was seeing all the inventions we was getting. They was seeing all the praise we was getting. They seeing us fight against white supremacy. When atrocity, when a white person do something bad to us, they saw us fight back. They couldn't see that. They can't believe, like, oh my God, like these black people over there is fighting against the white man. They fighting against our God. They fighting against white mommy and white daddy. And I think that bothered a lot of Africans. And you got first generation Africans like this young man. I think he got that coon African spirit on him. And I think the ancestors going to get him. Now, he mentioned that he worked with this guy talking about he's native to this land. I'm saying indigenous to America. And he don't believe him. Listen, y'all. I'm from Mississippi. Let me say that once again. I'm from Mississippi. And I'm just going to give y'all just a brief history about Mississippi, right? So, when slavery ended in 1865 in Mississippi, it was roughly like, I think it was like, what, 485,000, I'm going to say 500,000 slaves that Mississippi had. Now, on paper, they saying it's 773 free black people during that time. But I'm extending because there was a lot of free people that didn't do census because they were worried about getting caught up within the slave trade, getting caught up with a lot of stuff, even with some of them natives that were holding hostages and slaves out there in Neshoba County. That's another thing. Neshoba County, like if people know about Neshoba County, it's like where Philadelphia, Mississippi is. But I'll get to that in a minute. But they say it was 773 free black people in the state of Mississippi. My thing is this, and I don't believe that. I think it was more. I'm going to say roughly 2,000 because in 1840, I think it was like 1840 or something like that, in Natchez, Mississippi, that's Adams County. In 1840s, if my memory serves me correct, it was over 1,000 people. I think it was over like maybe 1,500 documented free people in Natchez, Mississippi. This just documented now. So if it was 1,500, I'm gonna say it was like 5,000 documented. Undocumented. It was 5,000 black people in Natchez, Mississippi. This was in the 1840s. Now, for some strange reason, when 1865 hit, when slavery ended, it would drop down to 227 free black people in Natchez, Mississippi. That's a significant drop, ain't it? Now, a lot of people like to put it. Excuse me. A lot of people like to say because of, restrictions, white supremacy and stuff like that. And I can see that white people pushing some of the black people out there. But it's a lot of black people still in Natchez, Mississippi. Now, you might hear people call it Natchez, but we call it Natchez, So, but it was a lot of black people there. And those are indigenous people. There was a lot of people around there, like Mississippi River right there. You got Claiborne County. You got, it's Claiborne County, Adams County, and Warren County. All those counties on the river. So there was a lot of black people over there. That's the part of the stuff they don't talk about. And you got to think, that river crosses over to Louisiana. So you got Louisiana right there. Then you got Mississippi. So you got Vicksburg and that, with all those places on the Mississippi River, right? So you got Vidalia, Louisiana. So there was a lot of black people that moved to that direction also. because Natchez right there. So when people say there was no indigenous people, it was indigenous people here. It was a lot of them. Let me go back to Philadelphia, Mississippi. Philadelphia, Mississippi is half and half, majority black, right? But in Neshoba County, it's 20-some% black, 40-some% white, 15% native. Now, in history, they will tell you, if you look this up in history, they will tell you white people didn't get to Neshoba County, to that part of Mississippi, until like, what? Early 1800s, like early 1805, 1820 or something like that. They would tell you that, hey, white people brought slaves over there. Then you had the Choctaw Indians, or those Indians, those red natives had black slaves also. But this the kicker. It was already black people standing there even then. See, they don't talk about them little wars that was going on around that time with black people in Neshoba County. A lot of those people in Neshoba County, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, they're from Mississippi. But this is what I learned from a lot of elders that stay around that place. But a lot of, you got Choctaw, you got some other Indian groups out there anyway. But from what I understand, there was black people staying there before even white people settled in Neshoba County. What you see in Neshoba County is them red native Indians, because they got a lot of land out there. You got Choctaw Casino out there. You got all types of shit out there. But they the ones that enslaved a lot of black people that was already in Mississippi. And they used those black people to clear out Philadelphia and parts of Neshoba County. I'm telling you, man, it's deep. I'm telling y'all, it's deep out there, yo. And it's hard for me to believe that Africans was able to roam around those parts of Mississippi. How an African know that? How an African know how to roam through those areas without having black people there? It had to be black people already there. And it's another thing how I know we indigenous to this land. I like to make stuff so easy. And listen, shout out to my indigenous people. I know sometimes some of the American Indians say a lot of things about FBA, and I don't take it personal, just words. I go back, but let me give y'all a shout out. Y'all have done great research on who's from this land, so I would never take that from y'all. But I like to make stuff simple and plain and easy, right? And I said this before on the live, and I think I made a video about this. When slavery ended, the United States said there was 5 million slaves. 5 million slaves that were freed, right? Okay. When I have these conversations with these Africans or Pan-Africans, I ask them that because they say, hey, it wasn't no black people here prior to when the white man came. I said, okay. So I always ask them this question. How many black people that was free during slavery? And they say, well, 4 to 5 million. I said, okay, tell me, how in the fuck do 5 million equal up to 50 million in 2026? They say it was 400,000 black people that came to the United States in the transatlantic slave trade in the 1700s, 16 or 1700s. How in the fuck? If that population was that, so during that time, so it had to be like what, 1.2, 1.3 million black Americans being created a century, every 100 years maybe, to equal up to 5 million. Somebody explain that to me. So you mean to tell me 1.5? My math might be at 1.3, 1.5, whatever, per 100 years, per century to 1865 equal up to 5 million out of 400,000. How in the hell we at 50 million right now? So somebody said, well, it might be, okay, subtract 5 from that, 45 million. How in the hell 45 million equal up to, how does 5 million equal up to 45 million in the United States? Or some people say, well, they had buck breaking farms. It wasn't that many breeding farms. It wasn't that many breeding farms. Like, people actually think it was like thousands of breeding farms. It wasn't. How many, and I asked these people, how many kids these farms was producing a year? During that time, it was a lot of babies dying after the mother had the baby. The birth rate was real low then. I mean, not birth rates, but the y'all know what I'm trying to say. It was a lot of still births during that time. Y'all know what word I'm trying to say. But it was a lot of births. When slave women was having those babies, a lot of those babies didn't make it. They just didn't. That's a fact. Even so, people say, well, after slavery, grandma and granddaddy had 12 kids. See, y'all never talk about how many times grandma lost a baby. Grandma lost a lot of babies during that time. I can't think of that word, y'all. I'm having a brain. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And trigger warning to any woman that lost her child, too. I'm not trying to make, triggering moments about that. But during that time, when grandma was having them babies, she lost a lot of babies during that time also. People really think that it wasn't women out here not having babies during that time. They think every woman during that time was popping 12 kids. My great-grandmother only had 2 kids. That's on my mother's side. My great-grandmother on my father's side had 4 kids. My grandmother had 4 kids and my other grandma had 5 kids. That was like the average then. But my grandmother also had twins that didn't make it. My great-grandmother had 2 miscarriages during that time. It was a lot of mothers passing away during that time. How in the fuck did we get to 50 million? They can't never answer that question. Because you know why? Because I push them in the corner. Because so now you got to admit that there was black people already here. You got to admit that. You got to stand on that. It was more free people than people that was enslaved. It was a lot of black people that didn't do a census. It was a lot of black people. Let me go back to Mississippi. That's why I was playing in Mississippi. It was a lot of black people standing around that Mississippi River area right there. A lot. If you go to Vicksburg, it's a lot of black people standing in these swampy areas. I don't want to call them swampy areas, but like areas where it can get flooded real bad. It's a lot of black people stay around those areas. Port Gibson, all that. But when you tell it, so now they don't want to say, well, nah, nigga, it was free people here. Those people are indigenous folks. There are people that, I don't even want to get that far. But those was indigenous people here. That's how we got up to 50 million. Not from no 5 million. Well, people say, well, Brian, white folks, it was like 200,000. How white folks be the majority, they wasn't having kids and blah, 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 blah. Nigga, Puerto Ricans identify as white. Mexicans identify as white. Indians identify as white. Who else we got? Even some Jamaicans identify as white. Even Africans identify themselves as white. So they use all that right there. That's their numbers right there. Ellis Island, all that. White people weren't popping babies like that either. So, hey. Tell me how we're not from this land. I like to make it simple and plain. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed the video. Hope y'all enjoyed everything. Tell me some indigenous things about your family in the comment section. Let people know that you from this land. And guess what? If you do trace yourself to Africa, that's fine. I'm not knocking that. Tell me history about that. Tell me history about your family in West Africa. Tell me about it. I don't mind hearing my descendants of emancipated people say, well, hey, I found the African name Zimbubu in my family tree. Cool, I ain't knocking you. Shit, salute to you, but you still my people. You still descendants of emancipated people. That's all that matters to me. I don't care what you identify as. You could be FBA, Indigenous, American, Indian, Solon, Negro, niggers, descendants of slave, whatever you want to call, black, African, whatever you want to call yourself. Cool. But long as you're a descendant of emancipated people, that's all that matters to Brian. But anyway, salute to everyone. I love you. See you tomorrow. Y'all have a great evening. Peace out.